Today we venture back to ancient Rome. We will be exploring a world that once lay beneath the surface of ordinary Roman life, behind the temples, beyond the political spectacle, and deeper than the public rites of civic religion. There existed a set of sacred traditions known as the Roman mystery schools. As we discussed in our last video, these mystery traditions were not Roman inventions, but inheritances, refinements of ideas that began in ancient Egypt, flourished in classical Greece, and were transformed on Roman soil into powerful vehicles of initiation, secrecy, and inner rebirth. These were the esoteric paths, a word from the Greek esoterikos, meaning inner, as in the knowledge reserved for the inner circle. While modern religion often concerns itself with belief and dogma, the mystery traditions of the ancient world prioritized experience. They provided initiates not only with mythic stories, but with rituals that echo death and resurrection, astral ascent, purification, and divine union. Manly P. Hall, founder of the Philosophical Research Society, writes in his 1928 book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, that Rome did not destroy the mysteries of the Greeks or the Egyptians. She absorbed them, adorned them with her own architecture, and preserved them in her subterranean sanctuaries and basilicas, until the final wave of intolerance swept them underground. Today we'll follow three major Roman mystery schools, those of Isis, Bacchus, and Mithras. Each offered different promises, but shared a common grammar of ritual secrecy, sacred drama, symbolic death, and rebirth through cosmic truth. So let's head back to the temples of the Roman world and decipher the secrets of these Roman mystery traditions. We begin, as in our Greek mysteries video, in ancient Egypt. The cult of Isis, whose roots reach back to the Old Kingdom, traveled across the Mediterranean through trade and cultural exchange, especially after Alexander the Great's conquests in the 4th century BCE. By the 3rd century BCE, in the Roman world, the mysteries of Isis had evolved into a syncretic spiritual system. Isis was now not only a mother goddess, but a cosmic principle, she who weaves the stars and watches over the dead. In the Roman period, the cult of Isis was notably inclusive, with both male and female initiates participating. According to the literary work The Golden Ass by Apuleius, written in the 2nd century CE, initiates of Isis underwent a profound transformation through ritual purification, symbolic death and rebirth, and the promise of salvation under the guidance of the goddess Isis. The protagonist of the story, Lucius, undergoes purification, fasting, symbolic death, and ultimately a vision of Isis herself, who declares, "I am nature, the universal mother, the single deity worshipped under many forms, with varied rites, and by countless names." This work, accessible in modern editions, remains our most complete first-person account of an ancient mystery initiation. Apuleius does not reveal the full ritual. He was forbidden. But what he hints at is unmistakably initiatic. In Book 11 of The Golden Ass, Apuleius continues, "The religion of Isis, which began in Egypt, found in Rome not an end, but a flowering. Her cult offered the personal salvation that the state gods never could." To summarize, the mysteries of Isis offered salvation, But this salvation wasn't merely belief in a doctrine. It was earned. It was enacted. It was experienced through fasting, purification, ritual, and a personal encounter with the divine feminine. The cult was inclusive, accepting both men and women, rich and poor. It was also deeply theatrical. Sacred processions, dramatic reenactments of Isis searching for Osiris, and ritual rebirth ceremonies were all part of this journey. This initiatic structure, with its death and resurrection theme, was not unique. It was mirrored in another system that descended from the Greek Dionysian traditions. The Romans called him Bacchus, and his rites were far less tame. The Bacchic Mysteries, derived from the earlier Dionysian rites of Greece, emerged in Rome around 200 BCE. Bacchus, like Dionysus, was the god of wine, ecstasy, transformation, and the wild. His initiates didn't simply worship him, they became him, if only briefly, through ecstatic dance, music, sacred intoxication, and symbolic dismemberment. The initiate would lose the rational self and awaken to something more primordial, more eternal. These were secret rites devoted to Bacchus that used ecstatic rituals, symbolic death and rebirth, and sacred intoxication to dissolve personal identity and unite the initiate with divine regenerative forces beyond the rational self. The Roman Senate, threatened by the secrecy and social mixing of the Bacchanalia, the name for the Roman festival of Bacchus, attempted to suppress these rites in 186 BCE, but the rites persisted underground, both literally and metaphorically, through private gatherings and encoded artwork. So why were the Bacchic rites seen as dangerous? Because they offered direct access to transcendence without state approval. The mystery schools bypassed priesthoods, temples, and civic order. They worked not through obedience, but through inner rupture. The veil of the world was torn by ecstasy, and in its place, something unshakably real was revealed. At the Villa of the Mysteries in Pompeii, a series of frescoes depict an initiatory cycle thought to represent the Bacchic rites. For a closer study on these Roman rituals, the book titled Mysteries, Dancing Out the Mysteries of Dionysus, offers deep iconographic and esoteric interpretation. In summary thus far, the cults of Isis and Bacchus both emphasized personal salvation, ritual ecstasy, and initiatory mystery. Yet, while Isis embodied maternal order and rebirth rooted in Egyptian cosmology, Bacchic rites centered on ecstatic release, divine madness, and the disintegration of social boundaries in the Dionysian tradition. But not all of the Roman mystery schools were ecstatic. As we saw in the cult of Isis, others were structured, hierarchical, and even cosmological. This ideological rebirth brings us to the final and perhaps the most enigmatic of these Roman mystery traditions, the Mysteries of Mithras. The Mysteries of Mithras, called the Mithraic Mysteries, flourished between the 1st and 4th centuries CE. Mithras was a god of light, order, and celestial victory, adapted from Indo-Iranian myth, yet reshaped for the Roman worldview. The Mithraic Mysteries exclusively male and popular among Roman soldiers, centered on initiatory grades and cosmological symbolism, tied to the Indo-Iranian deity often shown slaying a bull. This central act of the slaying of the bull, called the Taruktani, is depicted in nearly every Mithraeum or temple across the empire. But this image was not literal. It was astronomical. The bull represented the age of Taurus, and the slaying of the bull by Mithras marked the cosmic shift in the zodiac from the age of Taurus into the age of Aries, echoing processional movement. The act could have also signified the initiate's inner conquest over base, animalistic instincts. The Mithraic system was initiatory and graded, with 7 levels corresponding to planetary spheres. As Manfred Klaus details in his book, The Roman Cult of Mithras, initiates passed from Corax, the name of a raven associated with the god Apollo, through grades like Leo and Heliodromus, toward ultimate union with Sol Invictus, the name given to the unconquered sun. These temples were subterranean, symbolizing descent into the underworld or the unconscious self, and rebirth into solar awareness. The descent motif calls to mind ancient epics and modern stories. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the hero journeys beneath Mount Mashu to seek immortality. And in the 1895 esoteric novel, Edidorpa, or Aphrodite spelled backwards, by John Uri Lloyd, a man is led beneath the earth to discover secrets of inner alchemy. Whether myth or metaphor, the path of Mithras was one of inner conquest over fear, instinct, and ignorance. Franz Kuhmann, in his book The Mysteries of Mithras from 1903, states the Mithraic rites were not merely ceremonies, but cosmic dramas, allegories of the soul's ascent through the planetary spheres, a Roman map of spiritual return. So what unified these very different schools? The motherly Isis, the ecstatic Bacchus, and the solar Mithras. They all offered initiation. They all required secrecy, and they all spoke in symbols. Whether through mythic death, ecstasy, unity, or cosmic ascent, these mysteries promised more than just religious belonging. They promised gnosis, direct knowledge of the sacred. These Roman mystery schools all came to a formal end in the 4th century CE. As in our last video on the Greek mysteries, let us remind ourselves why these Roman traditions came to a sudden stop. As we discussed in our last video on the Greek mystery schools, Theodosius I, Emperor of Rome, declared Christianity the official religion of the empire in 391 CE. Pagan rites were banned, temples were closed, initiations were outlawed. By the 5th century, the mysteries, those hidden paths to inner transformation, were declared heresy, reduced to fragments, or driven underground. And yet, as we'll explore in future lectures, their echoes lived on in Hermeticism, in Gnosticism, in alchemy, Kabbalah, and the later symbolic systems of Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry. The pattern remained. The mystery schools of Rome were not relics of superstition. They were repositories of experiential knowledge, guiding initiates toward a different kind of truth. one accessed not through belief, but through participation, as the philosopher Sallustius wrote in the 4th century. These things never happened, but are always happening. To study the mysteries is to study ourselves, our longing for transformation, our dialogue with the cosmos, and our deep ancestral memory of a world alive with symbols. In our next video, we will journey from the sacred rites of Rome to the mist-shrouded groves of the Celtic world, where the Druids preserved their own mysteries beneath the forest canopy. What hidden knowledge did they guard in silence and symbol? Thank you for joining us. Next, we will uncover the secrets of the Druids in the Celtic world. Where will this journey take us after Druidism? Like and subscribe to find out. We'll see you next time. Find more at joinseek.org.